All right, good afternoon, East Hampton Town ARB. We're live on channel 22. We're streaming to YouTube. The phone lines are not open for this meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You may begin.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome to the November 13th, 2025 meeting of the Architects Review Board of the Town of East Hampton. We have 7 applications before us this afternoon and a comments to the Planning Board on 92 3 Mile Harbor Road, East Hampton, as our last item. Dan Benson is away, and our alternate Peter Bickford to my right joins us. Given the year-end holidays are almost upon us, and we will have just this meeting in November and just the first December meeting on December 11th. Our second November meeting falls on Thanksgiving Day, and our second December meeting would fall on Christmas Day. We will make every effort to accommodate applicants with complete and timely submitted applications at our December 11th meeting, as it's the last one for the year. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was October 23rd?
So moved.
Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, this passed. First item of tonight is Gansett Green Affordable Housing. This is 531 Montauk Highway in Amagansett. Chris, this is yours. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-2-33.001.
Okay, this and the next submission we'll see are both for transforming existing parking spaces into EV parking spaces. It's very much the same as former applications for the same type of work that we've seen. It's a bit of a technicality just because it is a change to commercial on the site plan. So it's we go through this. It's very little change architecturally. In fact, there's no change to the parking layout. No change. There's the only vertical presentation of these things is the signage indicating EV parking, which is also painted on the road surface, and the actual charging stanchions themselves. So these are the spaces in question. They're existing. You could show, well, if you want to show the site plan, it's technically visible from the road, but you're looking in at the parking lot with the apartments behind. That's the view from, with my back to the road, looking into the compound there. So you come in on the right, you circle around behind all the buildings, and then that little bubbled area there on the left is the parking area, the parking spaces, and one of them is an accessible spot. So that's really all there is to it.
Questions? No. All good? Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve this application as submitted.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
So passed. Second application tonight is Accabonac Apartments Housing, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-149-2, and this is 316 Accabonac Road in East Hampton. Chris, this is also yours.
Okay, it's another apartment complex. This one's off Accabonac Road. It's necessarily you access the whole development along a long driveway, so this is not at all visible from any public right of way. This photograph's taken standing in sort of in the roadway as you arrive. The parking spaces are right there. There's 4 of them again, and they're partially screened by those bushes that we saw in the previous photo that you see there, right in front of them. Same deal as last time. Really nothing controversial about it. These are the first. It's the first little parking area besides the pull-in spaces at the very front where they're. It's that first little pod of parking right there. So, any questions about this one? No, it's very straightforward. I'd like to make a motion to approve this application as well as presented.
May I have a second?
Second.
Clara, all in favor?
Aye.
So passed. Moving on to fences, walls, gates, and berms. This is Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-24-12-14, and this is 91 Rutland Road in East Hampton. Clara, this is yours.
Thank you. So this application was presented to our board back in March 2025 and again in August 2025. The applicant is seeking approval for an already constructed automated driveway gate and pedestrian gate. As per our resolution dated September 4th, the board requested that the applicant revise the drawings to show the following changes. The concrete columns must be reduced to a maximum width of 24 inches, which has been done. The concrete caps on the columns must be removed or modified so the total height does not exceed 64 inches. Currently it's 63 inches, so that has been done as well. And change the transparency, so which has been achieved as well. I don't know if you have anybody here today to speak on behalf of this application. Nope.
I think he went away. He told me he had to go away.
Okay. Well, if you can look at the sketch, please, that's been attached to this application. So right now, the column is 24 inches. It's overall 29, the width of the cap, and it's a 63 inch high. I don't know if you have any comments on the improved design.
Improved design and improved reality, right?
Yes, right.
This was a major
Yeah.
takedown of gates and columns that were built against the code, and we insisted that they be reduced to the proper size and height, and the applicant did. So it's a real, it's a very nice ending to what was a difficult story, since they're actually made out of concrete. Any comments from the rest of the board? No?
It's great.
Let's make a motion. Much better. Much
Okay.
better.
So I would like to approve this application as presented.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Favor.
Aye.
So passed. Next item under fences, walls, gates, and berms is Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-166-6-7.3. This is 5 Eileen's Path in East Hampton. Clara, this is also yours.
Okay, so this application is for the approval of the automated gate at the end of shared driveway located at the end of the cul-de-sac. The proposed gate consists of two 6-foot tall and 18-inch wide columns with a dual swing 16-feet wide gate. You can see the property, the driveway we're talking about is on the left, right there. And all the way at the end, you can see the new construction is being built. If you can go to the drawings, please. Perfect. So this is the actual drawing of the gate. I can see in the application that as far as the materials and finish, it says the materials and finish has been selected to complete the existing residential character and natural surroundings. So if you have anybody here to speak on behalf of this application, if you can tell us a little bit more about the materials and color and stuff like that.
Please come up to the podium and identify yourself.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you. So hi, this is Jeff Walsh, 5 Eileen's Path, and I'm here with my neighbor, Kim Wren, who's at 7 Eileen's Path, and another neighbor who happens to live real nearby. And yeah, we thought this would be a really beautiful way to arrive at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's set quite a ways back. Now, it happens to be crafted of aluminum, which was to be the lower maintenance version of it. We have a shared driveway agreement and a maintenance agreement, and I'm taking on the responsibility for that at number 5. But this was, according to my gate builder's Craftsman fence, this is going to mirror the same look as if it were wood. It won't rot and look tired over time. It'll be easier to keep clean and to maintain it.
Painted white.
Painted white.
Painted white, yes, apologies, yes.
And so the bottom portion, I think it states it's 4 feet tall. That's going to remain solid.
Yes.
And it's okay.
And what are the columns made of?
they're made of the same material, yeah, as far as I understand. Double check that.
Comments from the board?
Yeah, so a couple of us visited the site. So the neighbors have gates to your right that are basically 4 feet tall, which is what you can build as right. You don't need to talk to us about that. You can build a 4-foot gate. Anything between 4 feet and 6 feet, we are very reluctant to grant higher, unless there's an extenuating circumstances, like a busy road or something like that. So, I think the height of this gate is a problem at 6 feet. You've maxed out to something that we don't generally grant, and it's not in keeping with your neighbors who have 4-foot high gates. And if one of your neighbors is here, is he one of the gentlemen with the 4-foot high gates?
No, he's not. He's down the road, but I can, by all means, I happen to know that they didn't want to go through the process. A lot of the developers build houses, they don't want to bother to come to a committee to talk about it and make sure it's in keeping. And one of them has actually been extended, so it's sort of like, if you go to the site, it looks like it's 4, but then it's got like wires and stuff above it, which is a little bit unsightly.
Well, can we pull up the picture, please? One of them, it's not really zoomed in, but we should be able to see both gates.
And so it's true, the columns itself do bring it up to 6 feet, but it's also set quite a ways back further than those gates. It's like even behind some grand trees. So it's going to be very much, in a lot of ways, camouflaged. If you go back to, whenever you like to, you can go back to the other picture. Proportionally, because it's set so far back, we were hoping, part of why I wanted to do this as well, to have the approval and work with you folks, was because I wanted it sort of in the record, because it's a shared driveway, and we're gonna file it with the county as well. Because it's a shared gate, that's my responsibility. I just want to make sure that it's always clear for the two houses going forward. I wanted to make sure that it was something that everyone was happy with, and specifically selected a design which, the gate itself stays just shy of 5.5 feet. Of course, the columns are maxed out to the 6 in order to meet the edge of the gate, which does come up to that level. But everything above the 4 feet mark, which I know that I could, I guess, like as you were describing, I could just do without a permit, I tried to sort of make it the maximized amount of light by having the maximum allowable pace between the spindles, so that so it's the 4-foot solid piece with the visible spindles. And then this design is, I have a photo of what I should find a photo. I should have, but this is a neighbor around the corner. I was inspired, if you will. In fact, working with Kim, I sent around, I went all around the neighborhood, so to speak, and looked at gates and picked ones that we liked the most. Yeah, it's true that those two other houses, one of which, like, the whole house, if you've got, like, the houses themselves heave right onto the road themselves. Like, even the house is like, they're like almost set back what my gates are, and they're whole massive 10,000 square foot houses. These are not that kind of situation. So
I'm sorry, well, can we pull up the survey as
I
well,
just
please?
thought, so in our view, I thought as homeowners, we could have something that we like and what we wanted to have, as long as it stayed within the added allowance that happens when you maybe seek the ARB's input of going to this 500. Well, it does, like you said, it does come up to the 6 feet to achieve. But I think if you go back to maybe the image of the space that shows the 2 trees, and I think it might show the edge of the neighbor, I think the most compelling reason why it's maybe acceptable to you folks, or more reasonable, is that it's set well behind those trees. So I believe, I don't have it in front of me, and I think it's like.
Can we just look at the survey, because you keep saying that it's set way back, and it appears to be it's like 20 feet from the.
No, it's like 30. I don't know where it's like 20. It's significantly more than it would have to be. The trees are about 20, and it's at 30, and we're happy to, so it's set.
Well, can you zoom in a little bit on the gate again?
Sorry? Oh yeah.
Okay. And what's the reason for that angle? It's not perpendicular to the roadway, right?
Because of the nature of the curve. I mean, you come in off, it's a cul-de-sac, so it is actually the way you scoop in with the drive. And that driveway, the way it's drawn is looking very perpendicular to the driveway actually also marries that line because it is the natural way to, well, not I don't know what natural is per se, but it is the most optically clear and way to go through those historic trees that we wanted to maintain. So it's set well behind the trees, which is why we think it fits nicely on the setting.
So your lot is essentially a flag lot, it looks like from the survey.
Yes.
Similar. So I guess my question is, with that long driveway there, why does your gate need to be so close to if you have that long driveway, why wouldn't you set the gate further back if you're concerned about the visual impact of it?
Well, I think I like creating a beautiful visual impact from the road, and it's about the right proportions and the subtlety, which is why I think 6 is better than 4 because it's set quite a ways back near the road. I think it's a lovely thing to arrive, and my neighbor and friend Kim is designed this gorgeous like driveway entrance, and we want to kind of make that close, like a little bit closed off from. I mean, while we're not thinking this is deer fencing type situation, but we're making it more of a separation from the turkeys and the deers that are all around the neighborhood. And because it's tucked in behind the trees, I think it's really more subtle and it's quite beautiful. I think it's a beautiful gateway into this park-like transition from Eileen's Path to our 2 homes.
Did you give any consideration to leaving it, instead of aluminum, leaving it as a natural wood, like a cedar?
I certainly did. I mean, I think the reason for this selection was because my gate company assured me that the way that they're able to paint it, it wouldn't be like a shiny aluminum-y, like plastic looking thing, that it literally would be undiscernible difference from wood. I just felt like it would be really better for maintenance because it's underneath a lot of trees that could, basically lead to shade and potentially rot or just discoloration that wouldn't be as nice.
So we've been quite consistent for the last 5 or 6 years in asking applicants that are putting in driveway gates that they be at least 50% transparent. And I think, Kim, you must know this. You run a landscape business, and I know you do lots of gates. So this gate is not 50% transparent. It's a very quiet little neighborhood. It's not like you're on a busy road and you're blocking traffic or things. So to us, it just doesn't seem to fit with your neighbors and the nature of that little cul-de-sac.
Well, it's 33% visible.
So it's not close.
So it's not 50%.
And it's too tall, I think. I don't think this board is going to be in favor of such a tall gate and pit posts. I mean,
I was just going to comment on the angle that somebody asked about and what Jeff was explaining. So can I just point at the screen?
Sure.
So there's a big, like 150-year-old oak tree right about here that we had to kind of work the driveway around. So the driveway is going to come in, it comes in and it stays to this property line here, and then it comes back around to make this sharp curve.
Yeah.
So, and the overall design of the driveway was, we're generously wide in case 2 cars have to pass. That's part of our subdivision approval. But the outside of the driveway is just going to get a 4-foot swath of regular grass, and it's going to go to meadow. So it's very natural in its appearance. But that's why that angle was drawn. It's just this is what Walbridge had on the survey. So, but that's why the angle was there. I just wanted to explain that.
So in terms of visual impact of a gate, we generally look at 4 things. Visual impact from the street, public right-of-way, the height, the location, how close it is to the street, the color or the material. Does it blend with the background, with the color, or does it stick out? And the transparency. Those 4 things combined will that's how the board looks at how, visually the impact of a gate, considering a gate like this is to the public right of way, even if it's like a court like this. The comments from the board are generally that this isn't meeting, this is I don't want to say failing on all 4 of those, but it's not really meeting the standard on the four of those, right? And sometimes, like for say, if you were to take this gate and you were to move it way back, like 40, like 60 feet, then the board generally would be probably more receptive to a white 6-foot gate because it's far back and visually much less imposing. But when you put all four of those together, like a 6-foot gate, pretty close to the, I know you're saying it's not, but on a survey, and I can tell you 20 feet is not. So
Maybe for 30.
that's pretty close. I mean, you have a lot of space of a flag lot like that, and you're going right up against the court.
Middle of the lot, though. Could we pull up, please, the photo?
Now,
with the
excuse
giant
me,
trees?
I'm not done.
Please continue.
So when you put all the four things together, like there needs to be some consideration on these things. So put together, it is something that the board is not looking upon favorably. So I think you're going to have to come back to something with some revision to this, and at least one of those, if not preferably all of them.
So 4 foot without a permit.
We don't care.
basically, right?
If it's
You
4
don't
feet
care,
or under, we don't
Right.
care.
Right? And you probably, I'm just asking the question, you probably wouldn't approve for a 6 foot unless what, if it was further back, further away? If it
Yeah, I think
was more transparent?
Yeah, I think seeing less impact on what's viewed from public right of way.
Got it.
In general, I think if you look at the code as indicating, hey, anything 4 feet or lower doesn't have to be reviewed. That means that the town is looking for less presence of gate as a standard, either no gate or a low gate. And so that's why they have made it so that the taller gates come to us, because they do have more presence and do have more impact potentially on the streetscape and the view of the public's view of the residential areas of town. So yeah, I mean, the height, I think Frank pretty well nailed it. The height, material, color, distance back, and
And the neighborhood. I mean, there's no other gates the height of your gates on that lovely little street. So if you put that gate in, then someone's going to say, well, I'm going to put a 6-foot gate in. And all of a sudden you have a gated little Eileen's, path here.
I said there's the two gates there. They happen.
But one is so transparent, it's like more than 50%, and it's 48 inches. I went there today. The other one that's solid, they built that without our permission. It's 51 inches. We're giving them the benefit of the doubt of the 3 or 4 inches, but we were thinking about, going after that gate today.
Well, I appreciate all your insights, and design is very important to both of us. Could I please request that we go back to the photo that shows the 2 historic trees, that this is going to be well behind and kind of nestled in a way that I thought a lot about simplifying my life and not having to present or seek a permit at all. And interestingly enough, I could have done a 4-foot. I have a design from my gate company, and I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit practical. They're charging me almost the same amount to do a 4-foot high one that's solid. That basically doesn't. So I could do that, a 4-foot solid gate. I just think proportionally under these grand trees, and there's a grand tree in the distance that Kim mentioned, it looks too dinky. Not a technical term. It just really looks disproportionately like sad relative to the grandeur of the big trees in the space. And those other gates, those other properties didn't have. Again, they didn't seek to get permission to do something more beautiful, in my view. Their gates are quite simple, and those are like a different situation. The other thing, just also to point out, even to the point of how far, I mean, to you might feel it's not that far set back, but there's a cul-de-sac. So maybe I shouldn't use words like massive, because that's judgmental, a gentleman may not like. The cul-de-sac is large enough such that the curve of the road already sets the sort of entrance back a little bit, to the point that when I'm at the house personally, I feel like it's quite a ways in, and you're not it's going to be not that imposing on the road, in my view, at all, which is why I thought, let me do a more handsome gate that I'm really going to love. rather than something that I'm just like going to spend all this money on. And it's very expensive to make these gates. And that's why the idea of building this very expensive gate for 4 feet and not getting your folks' input and making something I'd really love felt like kind of a little deflating. And so that's why I think that while I'd be happy to kind of discuss, things that you'd prefer about it, I also, and if that means coming back to future meetings, that's again, that makes me feel like maybe I should just like build a 4-foot tall fence and gate, be done with it.
The fire department's going to require that your gate be 20 feet back from the get-go, okay? So a fire truck can pull in there and not be out in the road. So you're only 10 feet beyond the 20-foot requirement that the fire department's going to.
Most people, I understand, I did a gate like this back in 2019, and it was on Cove Hollow Road. And
I know that gate because I live in that neighborhood.
Oh, great. Yeah,
And
so in any event.
we approved that gate.
Thank you.
But that's a very different situation. That's a very busy road. There's lots of traffic, and it's not similar to this at all.
Well, the reason I feel like, to me, as a homeowner of any kind, like, typically you want to put the gate, as far from, like, as close to the road as you can, where you want to make it safe enough where your visitor, they can just arrive to have their car be cleared and safe from the road, which this one is in spades. Like, interestingly enough, I almost feel like while that's a different house, that house, it's almost even more important that the gate be set back because you need to make sure that the UPS truck can fit and scoop in.
We measured it.
It did, and it just barely did. It was 20
But you
feet off the
designed
road.
it that way. I mean, and
This one
you're
is
saying as a
50%
homeowner,
further back. It's
yeah.
like it's like another 50% further. Like, I know it's only 10 feet, but it's 50% more than would be required. So I thought I had attempted to do something because, again, the trees sort of set the stage as well for that. If you can sort of see in the image here, there's a sign behind the trees that that's about how far set back. Again, I'm sorry to be fuzzy because here I am just describing a photo. It's not but it's not like something at a tangible number.
So, I mean, we've told you, if your gate company works out here a lot, they should have told you all of this.
What?
The fact that the board will approve a 4-foot gate, you don't need approval. 4 to 5 feet, we sometimes approve. 5 feet to 6 feet, we rarely approve. So you're coming here as if you've never been before us, or the gate company never advised you, or Kim, who has a landscaping business, never advised you. These have been our policies for a long, long time. And I don't think what you're presenting to us creates an exception. So we're telling you,
I've only
we're not
done
going
it
to
once
approve
before from the standpoint of coming here, and I didn't have any issue at all. I came in with a 6-foot high gate, and it was 20 feet off the road, and they were like, lovely. So
Who said that?
I'm sorry. I'm saying that you seem to reference that my gate, but I came to this board in 2019 with a 6-foot high gate. And so that's why I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable as a regular neighbor who happens to be on other boards.
6 years ago, and that was a different board. I think.
Okay, well, by all means, I'm just saying, you're asking me why my company is based a little bit up island. They come out here sometimes, but I tried to do what was best, and I'm feeling like again, I know I'm violating all 4 principles, but like, I'm very aesthetically oriented, and I happen to think that what's happening at those other 2 gates are like really, really not what I would like to do at all.
But they're not your property, so you don't.
Well, right, but no, you're right, but they're also pretty
Okay, we've spent a lot of time on this. We've told you what our feedback is.
Okay, thank you. So
we're going
as
to
a
suggest.
homeowner, I need to know.
You're not a homeowner, you're a developer, right?
Excuse me, I'm finding this a little uncomfortable. I guess I'll sit down because there's no reason to talk. But by all means, I happen to be developing this labor of love house. I think I'm going to have to sell it, but I'm not a developer. I'm a human being who owns this house. So I'm a homeowner. Right now, it's not a finished home. But by all means, if I present something, I thought you guys were going to like this.
But it
because
goes against our codes and our principles of how we look at gates, and you're not understanding that.
Again, my last experience 6 years ago was nothing like this, and it's fine. You can push. I'm happy to sharpen it and figure out a better way to do it. But I feel like I'm being told that I was doing something that was outside the norm, when my only other experience, which was 6 years ago, was just to come in and present us this actually an even taller gate. But the same size.
Since the East Hampton has been besieged by gates everywhere.
I'm sorry. Okay.
This board, and I'm the only person who was on this board.
Well, I'm not that experienced or savvy. I happen to be a developer.
Let me finish. This board has gotten much more conservative about letting East Hampton be walled off by gates. And on this particular situation, a rural cul-de-sac, we don't see the need for a 6-foot gate. So we would ask you to revise your plans and come back and present them to us again.
Thank you.
Okay. moving on to certificates of occupancy inspections. This is 130 Bluff Road in Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-175-1-38. Frank, this is yours.
Yes, this is an application for a CO for an as-built gate on Bluff Road. I pull up the resolution. The resolution calls for a 6-foot high gate and a 4-foot call box. I went out there and measured it. Conforms to our resolution because it's as-built.
Any comments from the board?
I mean, we've seen the image before. It was, again, a very different type of circumstance.
This gate is tucked away and it's on an extremely busy road. Yes. Okay.
No comments.
I think we're good, Frank.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application as presented.
Second?
Oh, excuse me, actually,
That's
this is
the
not an
CFO, right?
application, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bring up thank you. I make a motion to approve this application for a request for a certificate of occupancy, and I instruct the staff to notify the building department that this is ready for a CO inspection.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So passed. Still under certificate of occupancy inspections, this is Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-87-1-17. This is 225 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk. Peter, this is yours.
Yeah, so the ARB approved this design in December of 24. And what was specified, I had no drawings for the gate, but it's the board approved a 5-foot high sliding gate constructed in 2-inch cedar boards spaced evenly to allow 50% transparency. This gate actually measures 59 inches, so it's 1 inch less than the 5 feet. It's constructed in 2-inch cedar boards. It looks perfect. There was no specification about the columns, but they appear appropriate. They're 66.5 inches tall. If you include all the double crown molding, you can't quite see it in that photo. So I think it looked very nice, actually. And it's on a curve, and it's actually 55 feet back from the street, 35 from the lot line.
Oh.
There's probably a photo that I submitted showing it from the street. The house is deep back on, well, that photo shows the keypad that's 13 feet from the gate.
Is that in the right of way or on their property?
That's on their property. Yeah, no. That's a good 40 feet back, almost 40 feet back from the road. And then I thought I had one more photo taken from the road, so you could see how deep back it is. Well, don't seem to be getting there. No.
That's a survey, maybe.
So Peter,
Yeah.
when do we approve this? What?
December 12th of 24.
Okay.
Can I see the survey, Will?
It is.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
far.
there you can see it curves around. I'm sorry you can't find the photo from the street. It's really almost, you see a corner of it.
Yeah.
When you step back to Montauk Highway.
Yeah, barely.
Okay.
It's nicely done.
Frank, you're good?
Yeah.
Claire?
Looks good.
Okay. Great. So
I make a motion to approve this application for a request for a certificate of occupancy and instruct staff to notify the building department that this is ready for a CO.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Last under certificate of occupancy, this is Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-32-3-14. This is 3 South Lake Drive in Montauk. And Peter, this is also yours.
Yeah, so this was approved in April of 24 to legalize cedar decks and trellis that were left to weather on 5 cottages. This is the name of the owner incorporated Faro Beach, but the signage identifies this as Crow's Nest cottages. There's also a dwelling on the property that's maybe an office residence or something. So they have 5 cottages for rent in the summer. They're These decks, I believe, were built in the 2017 timeframe. They came to the board last year to legalize the construction. It was approved. I went to double check for the C of O. I went to check everything and measure. And what I found, and I don't know what the board thinks of this, but none of the measurements corresponded with reality. They were all underestimated. This is cottage A. The square footage of the deck as listed in the approval last year was 200 square feet, and this is 230 square feet. The trellis was listed as 108, and this is 151. Cottage B, if you want to go to the next, is one of the larger. That's still A. A. There's B. B's one of the larger. It was approved at 390 square feet of decking. It's 490. Ironically, they say the trellis is 425, which they say is larger, but you can see there's there's over 100 square feet of decking on this one that does not get covered by trellis. I would estimate the trellis at about 350, but they overestimated on that one. Then we go to C. That's still B. No. I think that's D and E. D and E are the same. They're 36 feet long. They were listed as having 236 square feet of, oh, okay, now you've jumped to C. This is C. 348 square feet was approved. This is 455 feet of decking. The trellis actually is fairly accurate. They list 445 feet. I got about 450. What's notable on C2 is there's a new shed, a laundry shed on the left there, which measures almost 8 foot square, 9 foot high. I pulled the property card. There's no evidence of permitting for that shed. And if I looked back at the photos, it was Kathy who did this last year in April. There was a small, very tiny A-frame cover over a wellhead in that location. Will may have a picture of that too.
In this location? Or
Yes, I pulled up a photo from last year's presentation, and to show the comparison of what's there now and what was there in April of 24. That's it. That's what used to be in that location. Slightly different.
Okay.
That would not require a building permit.
Okay.
So
So the stuff isn't, because those.
nothing. I mean, here's someone who's trying to legalize decks that were built years ago, but in the meantime constructing something that requires a building permit.
So I would think that the shed is like, I don't know, like I can't remember the last time we dealt with this where there's a structure on a property that's clearly like kind of a separate structure that doesn't impede our approval of
The decks.
of the decks.
But this is for a C of O.
But we're not approving the CO we're just saying, does it
Okay.
conform to the resolution?
Right.
So
The building department will pick this shed up when they do
Okay.
when they actually do the real C of O inspection.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
But the size of the decks,
It's also off.
really,
I mean, I'm
I
comfortable.
think we should mark it incomplete and let the applicant know that nothing matches.
okay. And
They come back with a survey, right? Because presumably the decks, like,
The decks haven't changed. It's just what I think they did. If I may, I also had the original drawings for each of these cottages. And interestingly enough, the architect gave all the dimensions of the interior space, but not the decks.
Right.
And then he wrote square footage, deck. And I think when they went to build them, somebody made them a little more generous,
okay.
wider,
So
so you could fit a lounge chair.
I believe sort of legally, the conformance of the deck means it has to match the survey. So I don't know if the survey is dimensioned Basically, does this match the survey?
Well, pull that, yeah, can we zero in on that? The decks
Probably
are
hard to
certainly, the footprint of the decks are relatively accurate, but I don't know if they're dimensioned.
I guess the question is, do they match the approved survey that like we approved at the ARB? Because if they do, then technically it conforms, even if someone, I think, calculated the square footage wrong.
Pulled the wrong number.
And I feel kind of bad because you went through all this and calculating the square footages, but I believe that if the decks conform on this to what is on the survey, then that we approved, then it does conform. Am I right?
Yes.
And I would think that if these were existing and the Walbert survey that was presented to us for approval would have been based on existing conditions, and that you can pretty well rely or very much rely on a surveyor's accuracy. So,
So somebody misinformed the application.
The application is
yeah,
what's
the
wrong.
architectural plan, somebody just tossed some square
Let's
footage
see on the
numbers.
resolution. Does the resolution call out square footages?
What you approved in April last year, yes.
Each house has a square.
It's a different size, cottage,
Yep, say,
So we relied on the architect.
Yep.
And that's incorrect, but the survey is correct. Jeez.
And,
Alex, do you have any thoughts?
I don't know if the numbers are on the survey, but if
that's a site plan.
the numbers on the survey, I think that's okay.
But the survey didn't have numbers.
Oh, it
It just had
Okay.
drawings.
Okay. so
It
they
might
need to
it might
re-
talk about building coverage versus total lot coverage, but you can't really get the square footage of the decks from that typically.
I mean, what I would recommend is that, we would have to call this incomplete because it doesn't match the resolution. But I think we need to discuss how do we have to amend the resolution?
Well, I think it's,
they're gonna have to send us a modification application.
Yes.
So we can approve the exact correct number.
yeah. and I don't
Right,
think
because ultimately it was their application that's
Right. It's
incorrect.
not Peter's job to go out and measure these decks and make sure they conform.
You
I
went
mean,
over the top here.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good call, and it's incomplete, and we'll ask them for modification for correct numbers.
And do they need to do something about that laundry shed?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the building permit and see if anything is on there.
Okay.
I mean typically buildings need a certain separation between them by code, so it might be an issue, but we're not code
So there must be
enforcement. So
plumbing in this building, right?
oh yeah, it's laundry shed,
Laundry shed, okay.
plumbing, electricity.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to deem this incomplete?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Moving on to our last item of the night, which is comments to planning. This is Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-161-2-15. This is 92 3 Mile Harbor Road. Currently, the project Most is the applicant, and this was formerly the neighborhood house, and this is mine. I'm just going to read a few comments I have, and then the board can talk about it, and then we'll ask Val Florio, the architect, to talk a little bit. So we have been asked to provide comments to the planning board for a renovation and an addition to the former neighborhood house now abandoned at 92 3 Mile Harbor Road. This is the second attempt by Project Most to utilize this historic cultural site after an earlier failed attempt to move a cast-off McMansion to the site. The property is 2.4 acres in a mostly modest residential neighborhood of older homes with a scattering of commercial businesses along the edges. It is a quiet building. It does not scream, "Look at me." Architecturally, it harks back to the simple vernacular of cedar shake structures with traditional windows and modest white trim, though it's now under what appears to be aluminum siding or vinyl siding, which was put over the cedar shingles. The building has been a community center for 135 years, used as a child care center, a paramedical center, a hospital, a social hall, a nursery, a dance hall, an athletic center, also hosting birthday parties, Boy Scout meetings, church services, political rallies, cake sales, women's club meetings, local weddings, baby showers, among many other community events. Project MOST seeks to restore, renovate, increase the size of this existing structure by about 50% to 6,516 square feet. The structure is really two connected buildings, a modest cottage, which was the original building, attached to a later large open hall building. That's the open hall building from the side. It all requires some tender loving care. So let's just go through the picture so people can understand. So this is looking, as you're going up 3 Mile Harbor, this is looking back. The building on the left was the original cottage type structure, and then that dates from the 1890 period, as best we can figure out. And the building on the right with the 3 windows was a later hall addition. It's like a big open space, almost like a church, and that dates from somewhere around 1915. Well, let's just walk around the buildings. This is the back of the building, so that's the back of the original cottage with some additions that are sinking, particularly where that single window is. And to the left, you see the back of the hall building. That's from the other side with your back towards East Hampton Grill, that area. That's the original cottage, expanded, and then there's the joiner, and then the hall building would be to the far left in the photo. And this is the side of the hall building, looking down towards the center of East Hampton to my back, taking the photo. And that's the front of the building. Val, do you want to come up and make some comments, and then we'll ask the board?
Good evening. For the record, I'm Val Florio, architect for the project from Sag Harbor. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the intro, because I did do the research on this. And although the township does not landmark or have a registry of historic houses, if I'm correct, I'm treating this addition in such a way that from the roadside, you would see nothing different than you have had for the last 100+ years, 1915 being the inception of the primary portion, which served as the community house, as he pointed out. But I think the importance of this, I went back to Project MOST when my client had donated his home to create this facility, a newer facility. And I personally never felt quite good with that, because it felt like we were putting a square peg into a round hole, so to speak. And I felt that in going back to the board and say, look, we can create the space that you require for your program, but the important thing is that this structure has a history. And as a historic preservationist, member of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, I do have contacts with the Department of Parks, and I would like to nominate this structure to be treated in the manner which it deserves in terms of that preservation aspect. So the addition has been done with the guidelines of the Secretary of the Interior, where if you create new living space or habitable space, that you have a distinct parentheses between the existing and the new. And so although we don't have those standards, because it's not something that the Department of Parks would have oversight on, the addition to the back was done with the intent to hide it from the street and to make the clear distinction with that one-story break that here's the new part, versus, confusing it, because you have shapes which, they're very similar. And I did that intentionally to honor the architecture of the main building. It's a hip roof, and so the addition takes on that vocabulary, and it's sort of a harmonious merge of the two shapes. But again, from the street side, that roadside view that you had pointed out, nothing will be different from the roadside. And I felt from the sort of aspect of the neighbors looking at this structure, that it's not a change because they'll still see the cottage as it had been, and they'll still see the community portion of it. And I think in terms of we won't get into the use because, as you said, Mr. Chairman, it had been used as that community center. It was a building used for everywhere in terms of hospital and so forth. So there's not really a change of use happening here. It's for, obviously for children, but we have the brunt of the living space is in the lower level. Music programs will occur there. Children will play downstairs. The second floor of the structure is all office. So there's no noise, music coming out. It's relatively quiet in that regard. The first floor is again mostly office. We have the big portion of that rec center will be a playroom for children. And so it's not a use which is intensification of use. And I feel that's important too. Again, that's not your purview, but I think that the key thing is to get that addition far to the back of it so that it reads as it did. And all of the textures, on the very last page of this PDF, there's a photograph from the 1800s. And it shows, this I got from the East Hampton Village Historic Society. And it's quite helpful because it shows there's a community house on the top left. That's the residential portion. And that's exactly what it'll be used for in the future. There's a caretaker's apartment on the second floor. And you can see the textures. It's got shingles, it's got wood trim. All of that I can replicate because a lot of it had been covered over with, a vinyl siding that doesn't, it's not historic. So the intent here is to bring the textures back to what they were and to really bring this building back in time. And I think also to honor its history within the program itself, we spoke about having an entry on the rear which has remnants, little artifacts of the Freetown area. And Freetown, there was a recent article, there's a historian doing work and research on Freetown. We had been asked by the planning board at one point to have an archaeological study for this. Nothing significant was found, a few things, but I think that the importance of this is that we respect the history and at the same time we celebrate the history of it. So I'm much happier, and so is Project Most, with this approach because it's not obliteration of the past, really celebrating the building. And all this to say, it's a little bit more of the same. They just need some more space on the back. And we're going to lift the building. To your point, it's dilapidated. There are portions of it which are falling apart. Putting it on a new foundation will ensure longevity of the structure. And that's common. I've been on the ARB board in Sag Harbor for over a dozen years and still work as a zoning board member, but we're seeing a lot of homes being lifted with the intent of, new foundation, but things like that will bring the house to a place where it'll last then another 150 years. And so that's the goal of this project, is refurbishing and putting the addition, which blends with that architecture. It's got a hip roof. It's somewhat, I thought of Grosvenor Atterbury's work, and Frank is an architect, you might know, a lot of it is hip roof construction. This building being a hip roof, I thought, well, maybe I can bring some of that to it, not make it a full 2-story. It has dormers on it, which keep the scale down. And I think that's the key thing, is you don't want the addition to compete with the historic portion. You want it to be somewhat subordinate to it. And again, have that distinct break in between. So when we do contact Secretary of Interiors, it'll check all the boxes in terms of the protocol, like, did you make the addition so you didn't lose the history? And by creating that link in between the two, yes. Did you, we're bringing back all the materials as they were. And I think that from the architectural standpoint, it's one of those buildings where less is more. There's not a lot happening, as we can see from the photograph from the 1800s. So,
would you point out the new parts? So there's such a lot of things going on. Just show us where the new parts are.
Yeah, with the intention, every time I present to a board, I don't want to fake it with trees, bushes, and things that'll hide. I want you to see the real thing. There will be bushes and there will be trees. Existing, which is visible from the street. This new portion is set back quite some distance. It's on the rear. And it also, we need the height because it has a second story. This is a one-story building here, which is the play portion of it. Again, the residence, community center, the residence, the new addition back here. So again, everything has been oriented as I can, far to the back. And I think the important thing, especially for the community, it's in a residential sector. It has a pre-existing non-conforming use to some degree. But I would feel as a neighbor, like I wouldn't want to have a shock value in terms of a new structure like this in my, on a residential road. I want something that's very subdued and doesn't, shout like, oh, new building. This is just an addition. And I think that that's important because the first project I felt was doomed for a poor reaction, which in some regard it was, because, with good intention, I had to work with what they gave me, which was a house from further lane. And one of these houses was not like the other ones. And I think people with good reason were pushing back. And this has been a good revisit and just a new reset in terms of it. And I think I feel good about it and it checks all the boxes. And I like when I can come to a board and say, I love the project. And not from personal standpoint, but as an architect, we're stewards of what we do and we leave a mark whether we like it or not. And I want the board to give the feedback that you're pleased with it because you're charged with the duty of also being the stewards of this community. And whatever the board says, I know that you'll get opportunity for people to push back on you a little bit, but we listened and we've come back to you with something that's more pleasing, much more pleasing. So all of this, again, I'll point very quickly to the rear, primary entry on the rear of the building, not the roadside.
So, not to interrupt you, so 3 Mile Harbor Road is on your right of this elevation, correct?
No, it's in
3
front of
Mile
it.
Harbor Road is on the front.
But on the top elevation,
The rear, so
back.
this is facing.
So it's on
Okay.
the other side.
that's the rear,
Yeah.
okay.
So when you come into the property, there is a drop-off zone, which we couldn't have just one curb cut where it's required by planning to have two for safety, but it'll still have the primary curb cut, the driveway, which leads into the current parking lot, but the addition is all to the rear. And the parking, there's a little bit of overflow parking in case there were an event, but it's not a building that will be used for events. And if it ever did require, obviously you get an event permit, if there were a birthday party or whatever, something. But the program itself, I don't have to get into too much detail with you, but minimal amount of children. Project Most has other locations. And as he said, this is a building which is just sitting and it's falling apart and we're going to bring it back to life. So,
Will, can you zoom in and just point out on this for everyone in the survey, what's the so everybody knows the addition versus the existing. And I also would like to know is the entire existing building historic, or and we'll get into the elevations. So I just want to ask, like, what, in terms of what you see as historic and what is legally historic of this building?
Well, to answer your question, the residence portion was the first neighborhood house itself.
Right.
And over the course of the early 1900s, there were very philanthropic residents who said, okay, let's give back to the community. It was used to house women widows, foster children. And oddly enough, my dentist, who I won't name his name here, he's an excellent dentist, but this program is something that helped him. He was impoverished and he lived there at this house. So it continues that use. We'll have a caretaker, portion or affordable living on the second floor, but the black part shows the residence, which has been connected by that community house that was built by the people, the affluent society who wanted to give back. And that's exactly, I feel like, the use of that building. Now it's for children, where at one time it was used for a house of worship, community center, many different things happened along the course of time, but the program itself, I feel that the location is good in terms of no change to the neighborhood.
But from the Department of Interior standpoint, is that hall part of what's considered the historic?
The hall and
the hall, yeah, that was done. The house, I believe it was done in the 1850s. Mm-hmm. And the addition, the article which I have from the Historic Society is on the back of the PDF. And it says it was built maybe closer to 1900, that portion. However, the Secretary of Interiors would designate the entire portion as historic, even though it's been added on to.
It's not just the date; it's also the historic cultural.
Yeah, you can have a house as early as 1930 that'll make, if they did it in Sag Harbor when they did the survey in 1979, and they went from house to house and they said, okay, this one makes it, this one doesn't. And some of them, as young as 1930 are on that list, but this would qualify. And I feel that's important because it's not to, I think, give merit to our application. It's really to maybe set a standard. East Hampton doesn't have something which might be preventative in terms of people tearing down homes, which really contribute to the neighborhood. Every house does contribute on some level, but I find that Town of Southampton now has a board where they're preventing older homes from being torn down. And this project, it didn't sit well with me that such an old building that does contribute was being proposed for demolition, and now it's not.
Okay.
So,
and just in terms of process here, so we're giving comments to planning,
Right.
So
it's been in front of the planning board, and we'll continue.
So this is not the last time we'll be able to look at this, but that we are giving
positive,
neutral, like how do we feel about this? I'll say off the start that I have no issues with it. I think it's a tasteful addition to it. I think you're right in terms of, just by the nature of how you've masked it, from the street, it's visually less impactful. And listen, Project Most needs additional space. I brought up the thing about what is historically protected, because if you bring up the elevations, that one, I think the weakest part about the entire elevation is actually the existing, which is like the most prominent thing you see from the street. This isn't just my view, is the addition that was done on the gymnasium, and that you're not really doing anything with it. I'm not faulting you for it, but to me, it's actually architecturally sort of the weakest part of the whole scheme.
Well, the cottage and the hall don't really go together. They joined it together with that, where the chimney is, but, you know, in 1950, I saw a date of 1915 when this was sort of finished off and,
But I'm not convinced that the little addition towards the street.
oh, that little, it's like a vestibule.
The vestibule is the thing I have architecturally the biggest issue with.
Agreed, if I could.
And-
Oh, I'm sorry.
And like, if you look at the other elevations, go to the next one, well, like the rear elevation, the side, I think they're working compositionally quite nicely. It's that little addition that was done at some point facing the street, which is the most prominent thing you'll see, is, to me, that's the issue. That's my biggest complaint about the whole.
Well, the hall is
that.
just one big open space. It's just,
Right, I'm not saying
whole
you
room
don't
that's-
do it, but I wish there was a way to
Take it off.
improve it or rectify that architecturally.
It's very easily done because the building currently is not under any guideline or protection. And to your point, those doors did not exist in the 1800s. Those were like commercial storefront doors. So I would take that as my lead to say, thank you, because I can make a front porch on that with divided light. And I can make that look like an element which is age appropriate for the structure. So,
oh, like an open porch.
yeah,
Just something, you know, it's just not, go back to the elevation, it's just not
Well,
working.
it's not architecturally distinguished in
Yeah.
any way.
No, I mean, it really does sort of debase the whole
Yeah.
building.
we do have a limitation because there's a 40-foot setback from the street. We've been grandfathered that, and I don't want a zoning application for this because putting a front porch on could trigger that process. But I would say this, I can revisit that front elevation and put doors and fenestration, maybe even inset the entry to give it that look of a covered porch that's more, that says, you know, hey, I'm historic too.
Just give it some
Instead of a
dignity.
commercial, you know, storefront doors on it, so.
I suspect in winters, people came to that big hall and they had boots and coats. And you, because once you're in that big hall, you're in the big hall. There's no other, it's all,
Right.
it's like this.
Yeah.
So this is like a little vestibule, and I suspect the weather had a lot to do with it.
It's probably a very useful thing to have a vestibule like that.
There's 2 powder rooms within that vestibule, so, but,
I just think proportionately, and it's just not working. And I hope that you're able to do something with
well,
it.
we can, because I'll look into it. We're gonna lift the building, and I know with, there are 2 primary house movers out here. They'll probably put the thing on wheels, and either they can go up, I'll look at the cost. We can lift a building and move it, as you see so eloquently done behind you, that Mr. Davis can move anything. And we can roll it off to the side. And if that's possible, if I could get it 4 feet or 5 feet more where I can put a porch on it, it'll be done. And so I'll try, you know, but that's what I'm here for, a little bit of feedback. And also the intent here is for the planning board to sort of get, I won't say a vote of confidence because you can't really offer that, but you will write a private letter stating your thoughts. And I'm not here as it's not a presentation yet, but I will come back to you at some point.
Well, let's get the rest of the board's thoughts. Clara?
Thank you for the presentation. It was amazing. I drive by this every single day. I live in the neighborhood, so I think it's going to be an excellent improvement. And yeah, I don't really have any further comments to the structure. I see what Frank is referring to, but you mentioned you might change the design a little bit. You will see what's possible with that. So
Correct. I will enhance the entry if I can do that. Yes.
but otherwise, yeah, thank you. It looks great.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's voluminous, but it's necessary space, and it sounds like a great project. And I'm very pleased that you're going to return it to, I guess, cedar shingles.
Yes.
Siding. Yeah, I think
Yes.
that'll help a lot. I also live in the Springs and know the property.
To your point, if I could just add to that, there's a grove of trees in the front yard,
Mhm.
and we'd like to keep that. The addition is set back further from the road, and Had I put the trees in, I would have hidden that new wing as it sort of
Oh,
protrudes
I see what you're
outward.
saying, yeah.
And when I can prepare a 3D model and, but I don't like those. As a board member, I used to dislike because it's fakery.
It hides stuff.
And
It hides.
yeah, you can make the board feel or the public feel something else is happening and it's not, because what if the trees were not there, So the building, I want the board to see the building as is, standalone.
I think you kind of had me at Department of Interior, because I'm very familiar with the standards, and I don't always agree with all of them, and I don't think from what I'm seeing here that you do either. I mean, you haven't distinguished the addition with different materials and probably made it separable in terms of in case of future restoration, et cetera. Those kind of level of stuff sometimes goes overboard and makes people do things that fit in less, in my opinion, in architecturally than a harmonious enlargement of a historic structure. So for me, what I'm saying is, for me, your proposal is really much more in keeping with what I would like to see the Department of Interior kind of do, which is, it's as if they didn't trust architects to be historically correct and be able to understand traditional design. It's as if, oh, we can't do that anymore. And this is, I think, a more appropriate, who am I to speak? I'm not Department of the Interior, but, I'm worked with those standards a lot. And I think this is a better approach. And I think, you've done the other standards, like, making it for a 2-story structure, it's incredibly subservient to the 1 and 1.5 story, and the low 2-story of the gym. You've really done a great job by pulling it back in terms of siting, and I think it's a very successful way to add to this building.
Thank you, because I think the height is important to note. Is it's not competing, and it's also the scale. I believe that it's under 30 feet, and
yeah, I mean, it's got the highest eaves line, which is kind of, it's the tallest wall, but it doesn't read as, perspectively, nobody will ever see that from the roadway.
Right. This is not a house in the regard that, as an architect, we see they want bigger and better and 10-foot ceilings, 9-foot second floor. And this has been done with a modest approach in terms of 8-foot plate height on the second floor. And it's not as ambitious as you would find where someone wants, a trophy house, I call them. It functions. Yeah.
Is that the lifting and new foundation going to afford the option of additional basement space?
Yes, that's the intent. And there was some opposition when this project went before the planning board the first time, obviously because of the scale, the massing, and it was not appropriate for the neighborhood, I personally felt. But the play space is all downstairs. And there was comments about cooking. I mean, it's going to be like school-age children learning how to saute, things that grow in the garden, not, there'll be the smell of barbecue through the neighborhood. This is a learning center. And I don't want to go off topic, but I said that the facility are like essential workers. We live in a place now that's become unaffordable. And you've got 2 parents working to support the house, and children have that hour between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock where they don't have anywhere to go. And this is like a needed ingredient on many levels. And it spoke to my heart. I've put a lot of pro bono time in here. I was a child who grew up without a father, and my mother worked, and I had the key to my front door when I was 5 years old. And so there's laws against that now, but this is what this center is for, is really to give a place for children, a safe haven, and a place where parents can work and know their children are safe. And, I'm not getting into the use again, but I just wanted to make sure that this had some traction and really would be met with favor. So we're trying.
I think our comments are pretty much favorable.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me overspeak. I
Two of the
appreciate
people
that.
who are associated with us at a pre-meeting today, when we just line up what we're doing, actually used the neighborhood house growing up. So,
Yeah, many did.
and if you were sick in East Hampton in the 1930s and 40s, you didn't go to Southampton Hospital. You went here. This was the hospital.
Yeah.
And so it's a building of immense cultural value to this community, and we respect that.
Thank
My
you.
kids went there.
Thank you.
Great.
To this building. I know it. So,
Well, appreciate your time,
Our
board.
pleasure. Thank you, Val.
Okay, thank you.
I think that brings us to the end of our meeting at 5:15. May I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved?
Second?
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Ask the time frame for your meeting?
I'm sorry?
May I just ask the time frame for your?
Oh, we usually generate the letter within a week. It'll be a brief, it'll be a brief, several paragraphs.
Very well, just give your indulgence for just a moment.
Sure.
Those of us who live in the community will present, we wanted to hear your point of view today.
Yeah.
Be respectful. So we'll submit to you before your review goes forward, our point of view on some of these issues,
Okay,
including the culture which we are a part of.
sure. So just get those letters to Julie.
Thank you, sir. And
Okay.
Julie's been very helpful to us. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Terry, are you good? Are we done? Okay. So we close the meeting? We do? Okay. Thank you very much.